You're listening to Beyond Wellness Radio, bringing you the cutting edge in health, biohacking, and sports performance. Stay up to date and listen anywhere and anytime on your computer, tablet, or smartphone by subscribing on iTunes. Catch your host, Dr. Justin Marchegiani, as he answers your burning health questions as well as interviews from world-renowned guest experts. For more Beyond Wellness Radio, go to beyondwellnessradio.com.
Hey there, it's Dr. Justin Marchegiani. Welcome to Beyond Wellness Radio. Feel free and head over to beyondwellnessradio.com where you can access our full podcast transcriptions. While you're there, you can also sign up for our thyroid and female hormone video series. This series goes into the root cause of why your hormones are out of balance. While you're there, you can also schedule a functional medicine consult with Dr. Justin, myself, where we'll dig deeper into the root cause of your health challenges. Feel free and think of sharing this podcast with at least one person. This podcast grows by people sharing it. Sharing is caring. If you can think of one person that can benefit from this information, please feel free and share it. If you're enjoying the podcast, make sure you subscribe on iTunes. You can also click below the video or podcast where you'll see the iTunes review button and leave us a review. You can also sign up for the newsletter at beyondwellnessradio.com where you'll get updates before anyone else. Thank you so much and enjoy the show. Evan Brand, it's a beautiful day in Austin, Texas. How is it out in Louisville?
It's great today. My wife's like, we have to get outside. All the dandelions are popping up. It's like 65 and blue sky. So for this time of year, I can't complain.
That's great. I was over in Lake Austin yesterday, water skiing for about 3 hours. And I'm really sore today. Water skiing is like the ultimate full body sport. I was in a wetsuit yesterday, but I just was thinking back because I was out there in January without a wetsuit.
Jeez.
We talk about cold thermogenesis. I mean, amazing though. It feels so good.
That's great.
Well, what do you want to talk about today? I think we have a couple of ideas here, but one of the things that our patients have been asking about, and we've kind of talked about it as well, is the sequence of care, why we do things in the order in which we do them, and why, like, what's the underlying philosophy behind it, and why is it important to do it that way?
Exactly. Yeah. So a lot of different practitioners, there's so many these days. The holistic health field is growing, which makes you and I happy because we know that more people are going to get helped. But at the same time, on top of that, people are coming in with these different treatment modalities, and they may all be great, like acupuncture is great. Acupressure is great. Homeopathy may be awesome for you, who knows? But a lot of times we're hearing people that are going to these different practitioners and they're just getting some type of approach that may not work. And there's many reasons why it may not work. Maybe it's not backed around as much science as some of like the salivary testing where there's like 12,000 studies on that you and I use, or maybe they're getting the treatments in the wrong order, which is something that you and I wanted to talk about today. I think you and I already discussed this story before, but what kind of led us into having this discussion today is a female patient of mine who's 24 years old. She went to a naturopath for her stomach issues. She had already been the conventional route with the gastroenterologist and no help. They did the endoscopy and everything, no help. So she went to a naturopath. And she got thrown on a probiotic and her symptoms got worse. So her stomach was even more distended and her bloating was worse. Her abdominal pain and cramping was worse. And she got thrown on this probiotic and she just continued to fall apart. And so I asked, well, was there any type of lab work done? Was there any investigative tools used on you to check for SIBO or other sorts of issues? No, nothing. And so we run a couple of tests and finds out she's got some major overgrowth in the gut. And so we pull out the probiotic and then start with the treatment, and then she's better. And then we're going to revisit the probiotic, but it's got to be in the right order. And she's feeling much better. And she's been struggling for 7 years. And you tell me this all the time. There's people, we're basically the end of the rope for most people, or the end of the line.
Absolutely. Most people don't realize that there needs to be a certain order in which we do things. And one of the things that I think separates us from most functional medicine providers, especially the medical functional medicine, like the MD functional medicine doctors, is that we have a really strong background in nutrition and lifestyle. So one of the things we emphasize is get your diet right. And that's got to be the first thing. Now, most people that I think come see us, because you're the not just paleo guy, is you got a lot of people that have already gone paleo, which is great. That means they've enhanced their macronutrient ratios, they're increased their macronutrient quality, meaning they're buying higher quality protein, grass-fed meat, organic. They're eating, low mycotoxin foods. They're avoiding the grains and the refined sugar. So we have that piece dialed in, which is great. And then we also have some of the lifestyle principles, which you did a couple of books on. You did your REM rehab book and then your stress solution book, all on these diet and lifestyle things, like the forest bathing, like the sleep hygiene, like all these really important things that need to be there to help everything work, because they have a really great effect on reducing inflammation. So if we get the inflammation reducer button hit on the lifestyle piece, and we get the inflammation button hit on the diet piece, that sets us up to how we deal with the patient in the functional medicine realm. So why don't we just touch upon the diet and lifestyle piece before we go into the functional medicine and the body system approach?
Sure. So that's always going to be the first step. And like you alluded to already, most people that are coming to you or I, they already have some type of diet in place. So whether it's paleo, whether it's maybe it's because of us, I don't know. Autoimmune paleo is very common. A lot of people are already on that diet, but yet they're still struggling. So I would say about 95% of people that I work with are people that already have been on a paleo or some type of whole foods diet, bulletproof diet, something similar for a period of time. Some people 6 months, some people 6 days, some people 6 years, and they're still struggling. So that's why I look at it, and it's important to have that in place. You got to have the nutrients, you got to have your good fatty acid balance, your minerals, your hydration's key, making sure you're getting your omegas, all of that. And that can all be counteracted by a bad lifestyle, though.
Right.
So if you're eating paleo, but you sit in Los Angeles traffic for 4 hours a day and you white knuckle it every time you're on the highway,
right,
that's going to counteract it. So for me, the diet, I look at it, and to me, I know this sounds weird, I don't really get that excited when I see someone that has the perfect diet anymore, because a lot of people have what I would consider a really good diet, but they're still struggling. So it's like, okay, good, that's there, but you're still not healthy. Something's not right.
And I think one of the things that's helped me out in my practice, and I think you would agree, is doing the podcast and doing the blog posts and the YouTube videos. We're kind of educating patients by osmosis to begin with. So they have this foundation that's so deep, and the bigger their foundation, it's like, versus giving them a shot glass to pour information in versus this big bucket. So now they have this big bucket, so we can start dumping information, whether it's lab tests or supplements, or going deeper into special kinds of diets, where most patients that come in to your regular run-of-the-mill natural practitioner, they got a shot glass, they're still eating the standard American diet, and you just talk to them about cutting out sugar a little bit, and it's like their cup is already, overflowing, if you will.
Yeah, that's a great point. I didn't think about that. A lot of people do say, I'm sure you get this every week too, yeah, I heard your all's latest podcast on this. And it's like, that's so exciting. In between consults, we're already working on you, but you're still wanting to dig deeper. You're still wanting to gather more information. And maybe it is information overload at a certain level, but either way, I'd rather you have too much information than not enough, because that's going to prevent you from struggling.
Right. So we kind of already touched upon the diet piece. A good paleo template where we're cutting out the pesticides, the GMOs, we're avoiding the grains, the refined sugar, and the common food allergens, like what you see in an autoimmune paleo to at least start, right? The grains, the conventional dairy, the soy, the legumes, maybe even the nuts and the seeds and the nightshade veggies and the eggs for certain people. And then we kind of introduce them back in. That's kind of there. And then we have the sleep piece where we're getting to bed before 11 to 10:30, getting good quality sleep. And then if you want more on the sleep hygiene, you can see previous podcasts or check out Evan's book, REM Rehab.
Yep. Thank you for that.
A little plug there for you.
Thank you, sir.
Let's transition into the body systems now. Now, one of our mentors is Dr. Dan Kalish, great guy, amazing clinician. Most people out there that talk about functional medicine, it's sad to say that they aren't actually in the trenches seeing patients. Got a great relationship with Dr. Dan, and he's been seeing patients for 20 to 25 years, over 10,000 patients. So he has a perspective that is very unique. It's not theoretical. It's theoretical with the clinical application of, hey, does it work or does it not? So we like that. And I know you're creeping up over 1,000 patients in your lifetime. I'm into a couple thousand so far. So we have a lot of patient experience, which is great. Now we find that one of the most important things, once the diet and the lifestyle piece is there, what's the next piece? And we find the hormone system tends to be the best. Now, that's ATM, not the place where you get your money, but adrenals, thyroid, male hormones for the men, and then ATF, not alcohol, tobacco, and firearms, but adrenals, thyroid, and female hormones for the women. So that's kind of our body system one approach. Now, some people, the thyroid and the female hormones are more important than the adrenals, and vice versa on the adrenals for the others. That's where the functional medicine testing is amazing, because we can line them up side by side and see, hey, where's your thyroid at? Do we have low body temps? Is your free T3 below 3? Is your T3 total below 100? Or do you have low DHEA below 2 and with a cortisol sum beneath 23? Or does your progesterone around day 18 to 21 go below 200 pg per ml? Right? So we can look at all these things and hold them up side by side and compare them. Any comments on that?
Yeah, well, it's just amazing to me. This is not that complex, really. Once it's dialed in and once we've created this system to it, it's really not that complex, but it's so often ignored. And the adrenal test, for example, just looking at these hormones, it's such a revolutionary thing, because you and I both speak with people who've been to every specialist doctor in the country, but yet they've never had an adrenal profile run, for example. And it blows my mind, because then they get put on these different drugs or hormone creams or different therapies. But if they just looked at the body system and saw that they needed to be put on an adrenal program, they could have avoided all of these side effects and symptoms and things that now we're trying to clean up the mess from.
And it goes that way with the gut too. Just like you connected with the adrenals, I just did a YouTube video last Friday on a patient that just came in, all kinds of gut issues, ran just a conventional blood test. We saw a whole bunch of immune markers off. To me, interpreting it from a functional medicine perspective, we're like, hey, there's some infections here. Doctor said, nope, you're fine. We run our test, and she had the three amigos, which is my slang term for blastocystis hominis, giardia, and H. pylori.
Oh,
Three
man.
major infections, and there was a subclinical anemia as well, because of malabsorption and because of excessive bleeding around menstruation. So go figure, but in the conventional medical world, she was fine. And what we see when patients come down that path, it's once they're told they're fine, it's just a little bit while longer before they tell you it's all in your head, and they either recommend an antidepressant or they put you on a birth control pill and or an acid blocking medication to stop the symptoms. I mean, that's typically how it is. Me and you have seen it with hundreds of different patients, and they get that same kind of response.
Oh, yeah. And that was actually the discussion I had with a male in his 50s this morning. Just turned out he has Klebsiella as well as H. pylori. But yet he'd been seeing this psychiatrist for, I don't know, 5, 10 years. And he was diagnosed with depression. But he says, Evan, I can track it to when I went to China and I got food poisoning.
Bingo.
And I was sick for multiple weeks. I lost 20 pounds from all the diarrhea. And he just like brought that up. And I was like, oh my God. I said, we need to get a stool test run on. I can't believe that we haven't got there yet, you know? And so there's the answer. It's just, if that's ignored, you're going to get a drug, and it's not going to fix. I mean, the depression's not going to be fixed with, I don't even know. What do they use? Lexapro? I can't even think of the names of them now.
It would be like an SSRI.
Like a Paxil.
Yeah, or an SNRE, or it'd be like an old tricyclic antidepressant. Those are the typical mechanisms. Basically, what they do in a nutshell is they allow the serotonin or dopamine to accumulate between the pre and postsynaptic neuron, between where the neurons meet, because it's the neurotransmitters that act like the bridge that connect the action potential neuronal impulse from pre to post. And it just allows it to accumulate more between that synapse. The problem is, the more it accumulates, the more the enzymes are upregulated to break it down, thus creating a deficiency in the long run. And guess what happens to that dosage of those medicines over the long term? Do they go up or down?
Got to keep going up.
They got to keep going up. And when the medications go up, what do you think happens to side effects risk?
Definitely increases.
This is why the world needs functional medicine.
I agree. It's scary. It really is when you think about that, because you look at the timeline here and the dosages do go up. You know, it's whether it's 5 to 10 to 10 to 20, and you're just chasing the dragon there for a bigger hit, and it doesn't work. So now, thank the Lord, we found this.
Yes.
And now we're going to fix it, and he's going to feel better. I told him, you know, I legally can't say that you can stop taking these antidepressants, but if it becomes a side effect that you're just so healthy that your brain works again, you know, that's a conversation to have with the psychiatrist, that you're feeling better. So,
and when we fix these things, we're always working in conjunction with the prescribing physician, either letting them know that the patient's going to be reducing it and the patient has to make that call themselves, and or with the doctor. And we just let them know what's going on, and the doctor is working with the patient. We never want to do it without the prescribing physician knowing. We just want to mitigate the side effects. We want to make sure that there's a support system present. So if we have a side effect, boom, the doctor who's prescribing it, who knows that drug the best or the most, can curtail the dosage to make it less. Because when we have side effects, it's typically because the person's getting healthier. There's more substrate in the brain to relocate, right? Because if we have more building blocks that can be told where to go, then we can hit that saturation point and have side effects. So typically those side effects are just mitigated by tapering down the dose. And that's where it's great to have a good prescribing physician in your corner so they can take responsibility of that piece and dial it down.
Right. And that's a good distinction to make. It's not that we come across as, anti-MD. Neither of us are MDs, but we do still respect and use them for when we need them, but they're just not the ones that are going to help get to the root cause. They're just there to help kind of keep an eye on the situation and monitor things. And a lot of times it's sort of, well, I don't know what you're doing with those crazy, silly amino acids, but keep doing what you're doing because it's working,
Exactly. So we kind of outline what we're doing with body system 1, which is the hormones, ATF or ATM. The diet's already lined up. The lifestyle's already lined up. Now, we talked about some of the gut stuff. So the gut's the next piece because we know if there's a leaky gut, our immune system's going to be in overdrive. That's number one, because undigested food and or bacteria or biotoxin particles from the infection will get into the bloodstream. And that can cause molecular mimicry where your immune system starts attacking other tissues that look similar, number one. Number two, it's going to create immune stress. It's going to make your liver have to work harder to filter out these antigens. Antigens meaning foreign proteins or foreign compounds in the body. And then number three, we're going to have malabsorption, right? Because we're not going to be able to break down and ionize our minerals, our iron, our calcium, our magnesium, our selenium, our zinc, these important compounds that help our mood and digestion and hormones. And then eventually we're going to have macronutrient issues where we're not going to be able to absorb protein and fats. And then there goes being able to make healthy hormones to help reconstitute our lipid bilayers, and which is lines every single cell, help raw material for our brain health. And then we create inflammation, and then inflammation drives brain fog and mood issues and more hormone issues. So you understand now the sequence is the body system 1, the hormones, then the gut second. And now we can deviate from time to time. And I don't think it's worth going into the exact reasons why we deviate, because maybe we call it like a 1% or a 5%er. So 90 to 95 to 99% are going to follow in that 1, 2 to 3 approach, just because of how people predictively break down as they get sick and inflamed.
Yep. So are we still on body system 2?
Yeah, 2.
Okay. So it finally made sense for myself and this guy. After he heard our podcast with about my parasites, he looked at his fingernails and he sent me an email with a picture of his fingernails. He had super intense vertical ridging across his nails. And so we knew there was some type of dysbiosis going on there. So, in his case, it was caused from these bacteria, but you all listening too, it could be yeast too. It could be some candida stuff. It could be parasites. All of these things are going to tie into the same body system. So just because you hear that and you think, well, I don't have a bacterial infection, that's okay. There could be a parasitic infection. There could be a yeast overgrowth too. You could have blood sugar issues on top of that, meaning that you're basically going to have cortisol spikes and crashes, which are going to further contribute to leaky gut. And so it doesn't really matter what you're struggling with. Generally, this net that we're casting for body system 2 is going to be able to catch whatever type of dysfunction is there and how that actually manifests. There's a lot of things that can go wrong, but generally they're going to show up all in the same place as we investigate body system number 2.
Right. And one of the things that I say that really irritates some of my patients is they come in, they go, I think it's this yeast that's causing the problem, or I think it's the adrenal fatigue. And I say, sir or ma'am, you have the right to have more than one problem. So a lot of times it can just be one issue that we resolve that one issue and it's like, boom, light breaks on Marblehead, if you will. Or it's 10% here, 20% there, 15% there, or maybe 30% there. The gluten, the sleep, this infection, this dysbiosis, this yeast, this detox issue, this nutrient issue. And then it's like, boom, they all combine up. And then it's like, we have this great clinical outcome where the patient gets better over a 3, 6, 9, 12, or even maybe a 2-year type of sequence depending on how sick and how long they were sick to begin with.
Yep, that's a great way to put it. There's never the way I always say it is there's never one thing that's going to make you or break you. It's going to be a combination of about 1,000 different factors. So if you think, oh, it's this one cookie, that one cookie's maybe not going to kill you if it's a gluten-free cookie. But if you're eating those every night, that's going to take 5% away from your energy because your blood sugar is going to crash while you're sleeping. And then the 5% of you doing too much coffee and skipping breakfast because everything is factored in. So every bite or every decision is sort of going to swing the pendulum or swing the teeter-totter or however you want to look at it.
Right. So we kind of talked about the gut stuff, right? And all the different elements, the leaky gut, the food allergens, the extra toxicity stress, the immune stress. Also, 70 to 80% of your immune system's in the gut. So as soon as we start having immune stress, well, it's really close to home, right? So where there's where there's smoke, there's fire. And where there's stress close to home, it's going to affect your immune system.
Yep. So the whole microbiome in there you're referring to, it's very common for people to talk about it now. It's very common for people to just jump on probiotics or jump on other some sort of bacterial support, but there is an order to the method.
Yeah.
And if you just jump on it because you heard on some podcast that it's good to take something, you may want to make sure you're doing it in the right order.
Yeah, our sequence that we use for gut infections, something that I've kind of tweaked over my tenure here, but it's the 5R approach, and we've talked about it in many other podcasts. But first R is remove the bad foods. Second R is replace enzymes, acids, and bile salts so we can break down the foods. 3 is help repair, which is healing nutrients, adrenal support, and or potentially probiotics, because probiotics can have an anti-inflammatory, healing, repairing effect. We don't do it all the time in the repair phase, but sometimes we do. The 4th R is remove the infections. That's the second remove. Notice why it's not the first. Most doctors do it in the first. Big, clinical mistake there. We'll give you a paleo demerit on that one. And then the 5th R is the reinoculate. But again, like we said, we may do some of that in the repair phase, but 90% of the time it's going to be in the reinoculation phase. So remove, replace, repair, remove number 2, reinoculate.
I just want to hit and repeat on what you said because that's really profound. Most people, they're going to find something. So let's say you do go to someone that does run similar testing and they do find an infection. What Justin's saying is we're not necessarily going to come after that right out of the gate because you may not be ready for it. You may not be strong or stable enough. So he's saying, let's get you healthy first. Let's remove all the things that are making you sick in the first place. Now that you're ready and you're toughened up and your defenses are prepared and you're flexing your muscles, and you're strong, now we'll come in and address it. But if it's in the wrong order there, that's why you may be ridden with symptoms. And so we try to keep the side effects to a non-existent or extremely low level. And that's the way to do it, is just do it in the right order. Make sure you're ready for it.
Exactly. And then that kind of transitions to body system 3, where that's our detox and or nutrient type of programs. Our detox and our brain programs tend to happen there. We also may add in probiotics there too, because typically once we hit the 5th R, we're done with a lot of the gut killing, and then we graduate the patient, as long as you're doing good, to that body system 3, where we use a lot of detox support, and a lot of times it's geared based on the organics test that we run. A lot of times we're adding in extra nutrients that we may find on the organics test. We may add in extra nutrients with the adrenals or with the gut, and we kind of add them in as a means to support the adrenals and to support the energy systems in body system 1. But there may be some nutrients we wait and we hold off and add it in body system 3 to help support detox, to help support reinoculation, to help support the brain and or neurotransmitters. So this is where the clinical art comes in, where we have these body systems 1, 2, and 3 that are very linear, but then what stuff do we wait and hold off on? What stuff do we add it into to support 1 or support system 2, or we wait to the end to support 3? But the nice thing is we have the data for each system, and then we can look at the clinical outcomes of, the thousands of patients we've seen in the past, and then we can interject it what would be best for the patient, and then we can outline options of, hey, how fast do you want to get better? How slow do you want to get better? And then we can hit the gas pedal of success accordingly.
Yep. So body system 3, once again, not to sound like a broken record, but this is where most people start. They'll put you on some detox tea or a detox shake or a detox program, and you're just coming from maybe a conventional diet, maybe not. Maybe you have everything dialed in, and you just skip over hormones, you skip over adrenals, you skip over the whole GI system. Now you're on some detox cleanse and you're feeling awful. You feel like you have the flu and you have no clue why. Well, here's your answer. We haven't revved up the other systems to make you able to do this. So, if you've had bad digestion for such a long time and you're filling up your body with free radicals, you got a toxic load in there and you're not ready to just dump a whole bunch of supplements in to help you detox because you can't handle it. So maybe you lived in a toxic house. You can't just go straight into detox. You got to check everything else too, because there's an order. So
there is. And I would say one of the other pieces we got to be very careful of is the heavy metals, because a lot of doctors want to jump on heavy metal programs right off the get-go. And this is a big, big mistake. Even when we do detox programs, we're typically doing it either in conjunction with the detox program or doing it after our chemical-based phase 1, phase 2 detox, because one of the main mechanisms of detoxification is the gut, the hepatobiliary system. That's the liver shooting out toxicity and bile salts to the gallbladder and then spitting it out into the gut and then having good transit time to eliminate that stool. So if we have any gut issues still lingering and they haven't been dialed and addressed yet, we're screwed, because now we're going to have what's called auto-intoxication, where we reabsorb a lot of these compounds. So we got to make sure the gut is so dialed in, the diet's dialed in. And this is, I would say, at least 99% of the time. There may be a scenario where you get some type of acute environmental toxicity, you break a thermometer crap, or mercury 1, or you get exposed to something really bad environmentally, you see your kid chewing on some lead paint or something, then you may want to go and start doing a chemical detox right away because it's acute. But most people, it's a chronic issue. So for the chronic issues, we really want to lay out the 1, 2, 3 approach and then wait deeper into the body system 3 phase before we bring out some of the more powerful chelators to help pull down some of those toxic metal loads.
That's a great point. So I'm going to paint a little picture or a story, and correct me along the way if I'm wrong, of how
I just want to make sure you're not eating that paint.
No, I'm not eating the paint.
It's not going to be lead paint that you're painting.
No, it's going to be zero VOC paint.
Just checking.
All right. So we'll bring Sally into the picture. She's 45. She's busy working. She's looking towards retirement, but she's got all these symptoms, so she knows she's got to keep working away and make the money and buy all of our good food and all of this. So she's stressed out. So she's dumping magnesium from her body. She's burning through it like jet fuel. So now she's dependent on a couple cups of coffee per day, and she just doesn't feel right. She's got this fatigue. 4 o'clock hits, her brain's not working. She's tired. She's exhausted. She's got some excess belly fat she wants to get rid of. So she's gone through all these programs out there. Here's the detox stuff. Here's et cetera, et cetera. But we look at the next system. She's constipated. She's not even going poop once a day, not even that often, which is not good. And then she goes and she does a detox shake and she feels awful. Like you mentioned, if you have all these little chinks in the armor across the systems, your results are going to be limited. So if she's constipated, like you mentioned, you're not going to be able to flush out those toxins. So here you are releasing toxins. You're opening up these pathways, right, in the liver, but yet there's nowhere for them to go. So you get worse. But let's say we look at her adrenals, get them dialed in, adjust the rhythm as needed, get her pooping normally so she can get the toxins out, heal up the leaky gut, get rid of the parasites, get rid of the infections if they're there, then move into detox and getting the brain turned back on, making sure the neurotransmitters are working the way they should and that she's methylating and she's getting all of her B vitamins and her antioxidants and all of that.
Bingo. And I want to say one more thing too with that is that when we talk about detox programs or detox support, I want to just make sure people aren't under the misnomer that you aren't detoxifying outside of the program. You're always detoxifying. It's just the question, to what degree are you detoxifying? And then we know that stress burns through nutrients, and a lot of the nutrients needed to detoxify are going to be sulfur-based amino acids, antioxidants, B vitamins, and a lot of nutrients. And these things get burnt up under stress, and they get burnt up with malabsorption and gut stress and dysbiosis. So we're talking about enhancing detoxification naturally via indirect mechanisms, lifestyle, sleep, diet, digestion, gut. And then in body system 3, when we talk about detox, we're talking more about a punctuated upregulation of these pathways via specific supplements to upregulate the antioxidants, the sulfur aminos, the extra Bs, the methylation, like you talked about, Evan, and all the extra nutrients that may be missing and we'll know on lab tests.
I love that. Yeah. It just doesn't sound as sexy as like a skinny tea that you'll see
Right.
promoted online. Buy our skinny tea, detox tea. No, an upregulation. I mean, you're detoxing every day. Hopefully, you and I are slightly detoxing right now from our breakfast or lunch today. That's the goal.
The best thing you can do to detoxify is eat protein, all right? Make sure you're digesting that protein, high quality protein, right? Grass-fed meat. If you can handle whey protein, that's an amazing source of sulfur amino acids, if not pea protein, if not other high quality grass-fed or pasture-fed meat. Drink enough water. My friend and colleague, Dr. Robert Rakowski, the solution to pollution is dilution. Say that 10 times fast, and then get sleep. These are simple things. Now, after that, this is where we kind of like, we roll up our sleeves and we get all functional medicine fancy on you, and we break out some of these more specific programs. But foundation first, because no matter the higher you want to build, meaning the more intricate you want to get, the deeper that foundation has to be. Just like building a hotel, they go so deep down for the foundation. So we want to have that foundation so deep so we can pile right high on top of it.
I think of a tree rather than a hotel, big root system. I was in the woods yesterday. This tree had fallen over, I guess, from all the storms that we've had.
Yeah.
Its root system was literally, so the tree was on its side and the roots and the dirt were all popping up. It had to be 12 foot tall.
Isn't that crazy?
I was reached all the way up and I could not touch the top of the root ball. And it was a massive tree. So you think, man, that's what it takes to hold something that big up. So
I love that. And let's just stay on that analogy with the tree, because this is one of the things I hit my patients over is the tree analogy, is that most people, they're in the leaves, right? The leaves are all the different symptoms, okay?
Yeah.
Whether it's pain or fatigue or mood. And then a lot of conventional, or I should say, not so good nutritionists or not so good functional medicine doctors, they're in the leaves, treating the leaf. Oh, well, this is a zinc issue, or we're going to do this herb for that, and we're going to give this for that, which is okay as long as we have the right perspective that it's palliative, not root cause. So as long as we can differentiate, that's fine. But then now where the really good nutritionists and functional medicine doctors go is they trace the leaves back to the branch. Great. We start making sure that branch is being addressed. And then the even better ones go to the limb, and the limbs being all the things that we mentioned, the systems, the diet, the lifestyle. And then we go right back to the tree trunk, the base. That's where the core things that we've already mentioned in our foundation analogy have to be there. So we have the trunk, we have the limbs, and then the limbs branch out into branches, and then the branches branch out into leaves. Hope that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. So I'm going to read just a little piece of the definition of palliative care, just because I didn't fully understand the full definition. So it focuses on providing patients with relief from the symptoms, pain, physical stress, and mental stress, whatever the diagnosis. So basically it's, oh, your back hurts, here's 800 milligrams of ibuprofen, which is what I got prescribed when I hurt my back when I used to work at UPS to pay for my college. I never got told, hey, dude, maybe you shouldn't lift 125-pound packages by yourself and work third shift and you're up at 3 a.m. Maybe that's your issue, and your body can't regulate your hormones properly, so you're not rebuilding and you're in a catabolic state,
Right.
So
right.
There you go.
Now, kind of like just digging into that analogy, it's going to be always better for the natural doctor to go in and say, okay, well, here's some fish oil and some curcumin and maybe some boswellia for the pain in the back. That's great, because at least we know it's not going to cause the ulcer or the liver stress, because we know, according to New England Journal of Medicine, 1998 et al., 19,000 people die a year taking ibuprofen properly. So we automatically know you're in a better place just doing that. Now, the better doctor who's practicing functional medicine, root cause medicine, would say, okay, great, let's send you to a really good applied kinesiology chiropractor. Let's start adding in some specific exercises from foundation training or some functional movement patterns. And then let's make sure your diet's better so you have the nutrients for the back and the ligament. Let's add in some collagen. Let's make sure the sleep's dialed in. Like, that's how we go deeper. So I'm not saying adding palliative support is bad. It's going to be great, especially if it's natural without the side effects. Okay. And then as long as we add in the other pieces, then we set a really good foundation to build on.
Yeah. You and I both like fixing symptoms so people can feel better and stay motivated for the program. But as we're removing the symptoms, kind of side effect, maybe supplement in our case, we're still trying to work backwards to get rid of what's causing it in the first place. So maybe one day you won't need that boswellia or et cetera.
We deal with a lot of executives that have a really stressful job that frankly they may not be able to curtail as much of their stress at work, but we can at least add in B vitamins and adaptogens and nutrient and glandular support and adrenal support that will help while we coerce them into getting a little more sleep, taking 5 or 10 minutes out to meditate or go walk in the woods and get some fresh air and do some forest bathing, things like that. So we try to interject little pieces there. And what I say is we help them where they're at.
Yep.
If they're at this place, if we can just take one step forward, that's better. But for someone else, that may be too much. So we want to help them where they're at.
Yeah. My lawyer clients and entrepreneur or business guys or business women, they're always the ones that have the most need for what you're talking about, some of the adrenal support. Do you have any particular patient that comes to mind in terms of profession, in terms of the typically having the lowest adrenal function or the worst adrenal function?
Yeah, anyone with a type A personality, and that could be a lot of times that's going to be your lawyer, it's going to be your entrepreneur. A lot of times they're burning the candle at both ends, and I definitely fall into that category sometimes. So I make sure I take my adaptogens. I make sure I get the right sleep. I make sure I try to get a meditation in or a walking kind of gratitude session in during the day. Get the vitamin D. So I try to practice what I preach 100%, and I need to because it keeps me real for my patients. We're busy here keeping it real, Evan, right?
No, we have to. I mean, that's the only way to do it.
That's it. Well, anything else that you want to touch upon that you think is important that you want your listeners and your patients to hear?
Not really. Just make sure that you're playing an active role in this too. So I just had a female client of mine email me this morning, and she said, I think I figured it out. She said, I needed to change the timing of the vitamin C. She goes, it makes me feel a little bit weird if I take it too early. So I'm going to try it later in the day, or I may just try cutting it out for a few days. I'm like, okay, awesome. So we may not know every single little piece of the puzzle that's going on, in your household with your stress level, with trying to get your kids to work in the morning and trying to check up on your emails and all of that. So we fit everything in terms of like your program according to the best timing that we can give you based on what we see. But if there's other stuff behind the scenes that we don't see, like you're running around crazy like a madman or madwoman in the morning, then maybe taking those morning supplement dosage, maybe that won't work. Maybe you have to shift it a little bit later. So always play the proactive approach and don't just kind of like put your hands out and want everything to fall back into place without you having to do the work. It's still work, but it's fun work and it's very rewarding for you to play a proactive role in your health.
I agree. And then one thing I just want to kind of leave here to kind of echo for everyone is if you're having an issue where you're not getting that 5 to 10% improvement going through body system 1 to 2, etc., there's probably something deeper. It could be a deeper infection, number one. It could be your mitochondria is really burnt out and you need additional mitochondrial support during the process. Or number three, there could be some serious detox impediments and we may need some extra detox support to help your body process everything, because if we give these supplements, it may even be too much stress on the body to handle. We may have to really kind of backtrack it to the detox and do body system 3 first and give enough time for 3 to work before we even go to 1 or 2.
Right. Yeah. The last thing I was going to say, the guy I was talking about earlier with the malabsorption issues and the Klebsiella and the H. pylori, we always frame it around, well, how quickly do you want to get better? And he's like, well, I want to have more energy, better sleep ASAP. So we just started investigating body system 1 and we were treating based on, stage 3 adrenal fatigue, but we hadn't made it to body system 2 yet just because we were so caught up in working there. So if you have an incomplete picture, now after you've listened to this, you're going to know whether your picture's complete. If it's not complete, make sure you do start to complete it, because now we're starting to complete the puzzle for this guy and we're only going to accelerate the results because now we found 2 infections that we didn't know about for the last 3 or 4 months.
That's it. And I think if something does go wrong, if something doesn't go as planned, I should say, that's probably a better phrase. Something does not go as planned, it means something. Write it down and then meet with your functional medicine practitioner and have a solution-based mindset, not a, hey, this is where I'm at, I'm mad, I'm sad, and, just throw a tantrum, say, hey, back up. What does this mean? And how can we then move forward with a solution-based approach to fix it? Because again, 90 to 95% of the patients get better with these proven approaches. So if you're not in that 90 to 95% and you're in that 5 or 10%, I know it stinks. I empathize. It doesn't feel fun or right. But then the question is, how do we switch gears into that solution mode and get to the root issue that needs to be tweaked for you to help kind of unleash your success potential?
That's great.
Awesome, Evan. Anything else?
That's it.
Hey, great talk today. As always, you enjoy this great Monday.
You too.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.
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 Care. Bite.
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 Got a question for Dr. J? Go to beyondwellnessradio.com and click the questions button. Then tune in to hear the answer. Also, if you like the show, click below to review us on iTunes. For more Beyond Wellness Radio, go to beyondwellnessradio.com.